Again, try not to touch the fish. But I want to throw them back. Later, dude. Hey, good morning, guys. Scott, Sea Squirrel Fishing. It's about 11:15 Tuesday morning. We're currently sitting in the waterway just adjacent to the Cape Fear River. Today we're going to do a how to catch flounder video. We actually just searched this on YouTube, and while there's a lot of content on YouTube on how to catch flounder, some of it's good, and then some of it honestly is just a plug for whoever's paying the sponsorship for that particular content creator. I'm not about that. I'm about catching fish. I don't care if it's Berkeley, Fenwick, Geelan. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I'm going to do today is teach you guys actually how to catch flounder. Flounder are unique fish. They're laying on the bottom, two eyes on the same side of their head. So we fish for flounder a lot of times differently than we fish for other fish. So we're going to go over everything today, all the aspects of that, catching bait, how to fish live bait, Carolina rigs. We're going to talk about artificials, which I love to fish, specifically at Bucktail, underspins, spinnerbaits. There's all kinds of tools that we can utilize when we're fishing for flounder, and at the same time hopefully catch some redfish or trout as kind of a bycatch throughout the day while flounder fishing. So stick around. All right, guys, we got the cast net. I'm not going to go too far in the weeds on casting. Number one, because I'm left-handed, so anything I teach you you're going to do the complete opposite of that. So for me, throwing a mullet net, 3/8 mesh. I think this is a 3/4 of a pound of lead per foot. The way I like to do it is I'll get about 1/3 of the net, wrap it over my my index finger and my front finger, then I'll wrap that back over, hold that with my thumb, and now y'all are actually looking at the bottom of the net. So the net's already open essentially, so now all I've got to do is throw it. If you got any questions about that, hit me up. I can teach you. When you throw the cast net, the best thing I can tell you is try not to throw it too hard. The biggest mistake I see is people trying to throw the net too hard. Take your time, it's all good. It's like throwing a fly rod. One thing to keep in mind when you're chasing mullet is usually they're going to go one direction. So if they are, depending on if you got a rising tide, falling tide, depending on where your area is, but generally if you see one school of mullet going one way, the majority of those other schools will be going the same way. So my best suggestion on that is actually go opposite of the way they're coming. That way they're coming to you and you're going toward them. You're basically just going to cover more area and have more opportunities to see bait when that's the case. Today we're trying to film, so we got the sunlight behind us, so we're actually going with the current, with the schools of mullet. So if that's the case, it's all good. Just go a little bit faster. So basically if the mullet are doing 1 knot, make sure you're doing 1.5 or 2 knots. That way you're actually catching up to those schools of mullet. All right, guys, we got the bait coming at us. Take your time. Let them come to you if they're coming at you. Right here, we're gonna make a nice slow cast, lead them, and that should do it. We got mullet. That's what we're looking for. All right, guys, we're back. Now we're gonna talk about terminal tackle for live bait. Tackle-wise, I'm a huge fan of a bait caster. This particular one is a 150 series, small, low-profile bait caster, and it's a very high-speed reel. This one is a 8.2 to 1, so it's super fast. So every crank I get, I take up a lot of line. That allows me to fish slower as far as my reel retrieve, but I'm still moving the bait along. Again, flounder are sitting on the bottom, so this is a unique fish because we're bringing the bait to the fish rather than the fish to the bait. If we were going to anchor up and live bait fish for trout, we're going to throw out a bunch of live baits, trout are in a school swinging around, boom, they find the bait. Flounder are different. Flounder are sitting there chilling. We're trying to bring the bait to them. So I want to cover a lot of water, artificial, live bait, either one. I want to cover a lot of water, cover a bunch of ground, bring the bait to the fish. All right, so now we're going to talk about a Carolina rig. This is the most commonly used rig. A lot of people call it a fish finder rig or a Carolina rig. It's really not that complicated. We're going to do a sinker. I like to use a bead. Just honestly, you don't need to. It helps to protect the connection between your braid and your swivel. Me, I do it for my dad. Shout out, Dad. Swivel. We're going to use some leader, and then we're going to use a hook. For me, as far as hooks, this is a big aspect to me as far as Carolina rigs go. I really want a kill hook. I've tried octopus. I've tried circle hooks. Our flounder season's close, and we want to be good stewards of the water. We want to be able to release these fish healthy and happy. However, I can't catch a damn thing on a circle hook when it comes to a flounder. I think the issue is that, you know, they're flat. Their mouth configuration is not the same as a trout or a redfish or even a bass, which I think circle hooks were probably created for. So I like a kill hook, 2-aught kill hook. Not trying to do any endorsements whatsoever, but the owner inshore 2-aught kill hooks are awesome. All right, guys, leader material. We're going to tie up a Carolina rig. Honestly, I've got guys that are guides, or I've got friends that are guides. They'll use 30 to 40. A lot of times more inexperienced fishermen will get hung up more, so they want that bigger line to be able to just kind of pull it out. Me personally, as far as tournament fishing or just fishing in general, I like 25-pound. Flounder are not particular. I still use fluorocarbon. I like the fact that fluorocarbon is more, let me rephrase that, it's less pliable. Monofilament is very pliable, so therefore the mullet can move a lot more, or the bait you're using. Fluorocarbon is less pliable, so your bait is more constrained, it's more constricted, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to make it as easy as possible for the fish to get this bait. So fluorocarbon kind of keeps them pinned a little bit better, for lack of better words. Either way, mono, fluoro, hell, you could probably use straight braid, to be quite honest. You'd stay hung up the whole time, but it'd probably work. Flounder are kind of dumb when it comes to that. All right, we're going to do a Carolina rig. Today, we're going to do a 3/4 ounce sinker. We're going to do a bead, just because. I use green beads. It doesn't matter, honestly. Again, my dad did this, so kind of a thing I like to do. I'm going to do a swivel. In regards to your swivel, I like the smallest swivel possible. You can look at the poundage, stainless, not stainless. Honestly, don't get too far in the weeds in that. Smaller the better, just because that's less unnatural stuff that you have adjacent to your bait. But either way, don't get too far in the weeds on your swivel. Improved Fisherman, right there. I think that's what it's called. I've been tying it for 43 years, so... well, not 43. Been tying it for probably 35. 25-pound fluoro. Kids, don't use your teeth to cut the fluoro. Otherwise, you'll be 43 and have to go to the dentist a lot. We're going to go through our swivel. Again, improved fisherman's knot. Leader length. This is actually important. Flounder, again, are on the bottom, trying to keep the bait close to them. We don't want the bait too far away from the flounder, so why would you use the 3-foot leader when the sinker's on the bottom? To me, that doesn't make sense. Let's think about this logically. So we're going to do about, I don't know, 16, 18 inches. And then our hook. Again, 2-aught, kill hook. Got your knot. Always wet your knots. I will say that about your knots. Reduce that friction. And then we're going to clean these knots up. I'm an old school fly fisherman and trout fisherman from Tennessee, so I'm huge on natural presentation. So we're going to try to get our tag ends as short as possible while still keeping the integrity of the hook itself, or the integrity of the knot. And there you go. So this is a simple Carolina rig. So sinker, bead, swivel, 16-ish inches, 25-pound fluoro, 2-aught kill hook. I don't care what anybody says. You want to catch a flounder? Do this rig right here. You're going to be good to go. Artificial baits allow you to cover more water, and when you cover more water, you have more opportunities for fish. I'm trying to increase my catch rates by increasing the time I have a bait in the water, potentially in front of a fish. So with that being said, we're going to talk about baits like bucktails, spinnerbaits, underspins. There's a few other different baits. Those are the 3 that I really like. So let's go into those individually, and I'm going to show you guys how to tie those, how to rig those, and we'll talk about how to work those as well when we get on the rods. All right, guys, so let's talk about bucktails. So bucktails are my favorite bait to fish when it comes to flounder. I like to do a trailer on my bucktail. Don't throw this without a trailer, okay? You can put Uncle Josh's pork rind on it. You can put some type of grub, whatever you want. I prefer a gulp shrimp. I like the 4-inch myself because that gives me a bigger bait profile. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the head right there, go down about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, push it back up, make sure the hair's good. And then now we have roughly a 5-inch bait presentation. A finder's going to eat this up. Finders have a lot bigger mouths than we give them credit for. They're more aggressive than we give them credit for, so they will eat this big of a bait presentation. And it's not a Z-Man. All right, guys, so the first bait we're going to showcase is the bucktail. Again, this is my favorite. What I've done here is a uni to uni knot, 15-pound Power Pro braid to 25-pound fluoro. Again, you can use mono, doesn't matter. The biggest aspect I want y'all to understand about this is how to work the bait. So I'm going to put the boat in anchor mode, and looking at this creek, you'll see that we have, you know, the left side, the back, the right hand side. So what we're going to do with the bucktail, and the cool thing about the bucktail is we can cover all that adequately and quickly as to where we could not do that with a mullet. So that being said, the key to this is how you work it. It looks stupid. I'm going to be completely honest. The way I work it looks stupid, but I was taught by some of the best bucktailers in this area. And so what we're going to do is we're going to toss it out. We're going to follow it down, let it hit the bottom. All right, boom, just felt it hit the bottom. And we're just going to start twitching the rod. I like to use a medium heavy rod, a little bit less work on my wrist. And I want to do probably about, I'm trying to calculate this, about 10 twitches per reel of the reel. And what we're doing is we're just covering water. So while that looks stupid with me doing it, what we're doing actually is we're taking this bait. My hand's the bottom of the water. That's where the flounder's sitting. And this bait's just doing this. And it makes it super, super easy for that flounder to come up and grab it like that. That's why we do the small jigging motion. All right, as y'all are fishing this, on occasion, oh, here we go. So that was whenever I dropped, like I didn't jig it one time. It went down, felt the way of the fish, and caught him. Little fish, but as you can see, the bucktails do work. All right, little guy, be a keeper in Florida. What I was saying before I was interrupted by that fish is whenever you cast it out, you know, let it sink like I said, and then as you're jigging it, on occasion, kind of stop, and then fill your rod, fill your line, make sure you're still making contact with the bottom, and then continue. Because what happens is a lot of times we're out in the, you know, say we're in 8 feet of water fishing in 4, it slopes down back to 8. If we just continue the same retrieve that we're doing, then as we get back to like 6 or 7 feet of water, our bucktail's 18 inches, 2 feet in, I was going to say in there, above where the fish are at. So on occasion, stop, let it sink to the bottom, and continue your retrieve. Talking about areas to fish, we just caught one small flounder on a bucktail, came over the other side of the creek. Keep this in mind when you're bucktailing or live bait or anything else. Flounders are ambush predators. They are on the bottom waiting for fish to come to them. So they're not actually out seeking fish. They will on occasion, but most of the time they're on the bottom waiting for a bait to come to them. So therefore we need ambush points, right? So we need points, creek mouths, little indentions, anywhere a flounder can get to kind of hide, burrow in the sand, and wait for a bait to come to him. So this is a perfect scenario. Right now we got pretty much a full tide, about to start falling out. Got a creek mouth, a flat. All that bait's going to run up in the flat. As the tide starts falling out, it's going to come back out. So the flounder are going to be kind of on both sides of the creek, on the point, over here to the right where this current rip is. Right here's a good place. If you look right there, and this is stuff that a lot of people pass up, but like right there is just kind of an indention in the bank. And a lot of times a flounder will sit right there because he can get hidden, and then he can wait for that bait to come to him. So if you think, I just hit a rock or a stump or something. If you think you're hung up, or if you think you might have a fish, the best thing to do is just stop, reel down. If it is a fish, you're already set up to set the hook. If it's not a fish, start pulling up slowly. Don't freak out. Don't set the hook. Wait till you feel weight. If you feel weight, if he pulls back, set him. It's a flounder. If not, just kind of pull back. You're like, oh man, it's just a rock or a stump or whatever. Then you can kind of get your bait out. But you're already set up in case it is a flounder. Another thing when you're fishing a bucktail, if you have a gulp on it or a live bait, I love fishing bucktails with a mullet, you know, like a 4-inch mullet. Don't feel like you have to set the hook immediately. If you get a bite or if you feel weight, they will hold it. Weight, like I said, reel down, feel that weight, make sure he's good to go, make sure he's got it, and then you can smoke him. And the cool thing about flounder, as opposed to especially trout, is you can actually put the old bill dance on them and put a little bit of muscle into it whenever you go to set the hook. All right, now we started drifting. So again, the good thing about this, take the bucktail, we're going to cover all the water, every little nook, cranny, point, cut, whatever you want to call it. We're going to hit all those, and this is stuff we could not do. We could, just not as efficiently if we were using a live bait. Got the old iPilot going. Not really sure how I fished before these things. Back in the day, we fished a john boat and a big ass anchor. Guys, again, I know this looks stupid, but I promise it catches fish. I've fished with some guys that'll do this. And that bait's going to go like this, right? You might get some reaction bites, you'll catch a fish. But what you're not doing is you're not keeping the bait in front of the fish in the presentation form it needs to be as adequately as if you just did these mild little jigs or twitches like I'm doing. All right, guys, the next bait we're going to talk about is a spinnerbait. These were originally designed for bass fishermen, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. Then they started being used in the world of saltwater for redfish. This bait right here is actually a redfish magic, which tells me it was definitely designed originally for redfish. However, the cool thing about these is they're really, really awesome for flounder. We're going to fish them a little bit differently for flounder than we would for redfish, and we'll show you guys that in a minute. But first, let's go over the aspects of what makes this a good bait. The best thing about this is you're covering all three aspects of how a flounder likes to feed, or a fish in general. So we're going to talk about scent, we're going to talk about visual, and we're going to talk about sound. So when we talk about scent, we got the gulp on there, right? Again, I'll say it again, I'll never have a sponsorship from Z-Man. Take your Z-Man, your Procure, throw it in the trash, put a gulp on, right there. I promise. Trust me on this. That's got our scent covered. As far as our visual aspect, we've got the shrimp itself, the gulp, we got the blade. We've got a good size bait presentation, about 4.5 inches or so. And then we've got the sound. So that's where the blade comes in. Fish it really slow. It's going to go boom, 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 boom. And that's going to tear a flounder up. A lot of times whenever they hit it, they're either going to do one of two things. They're going to knock the crap out of it, or they're just going to load up on it and you're going to feel like you got a wet sock, in which case you might have a big old flounder. All right, so the cool thing about the spinnerbait is, as opposed to the bucktail, is we can actually throw this bad boy up in the grass. Gives us an option to catch a redfish or a flounder. So like right here, we got some scattered grass. We're gonna throw it actually in the grass, and we're just gonna kind of jig it around. Pull it through that Spartina grass. And what we're doing now is we're increasing our catch odds, or catch ratio odds, because now we just fish for a redfish. As they come out of that grass, going to let it slowly fall down, kind of jig it through there. The whole time I'm feeling that blade move on my rod, that's going to freak out a redfish, man. They're going to be able to handle that between that and a gulp at the same time. Get back out to the grass on this side of it, let it fall. Now we're flounder fishing again. Really good presentation. Really increases your odds of catching a red or a flounder. All right, guys, just made a long cast on a flat. We're probably in about 4 feet of water, and to keep it down, just kind of jigging it. Not like a real hard jig, but just kind of rolling it, slow rolling it like this on the bottom. Going to keep it down there where the fish lay. All right, so this is like a perfect scenario of a spinnerbait. I'm actually going to anchor up on this. We got scattered grass. Could be redfish back there behind that grass line. Got scattered grass right here, which means we have rocks down there. So we're actually going to take the spinnerbait, throw it all the way up in there, in the grass, jig it out, and boom, we're right there where the redfish could live. Come through that grass, like so, and then now we're going to let it fall right back down. A lot of the times your hit is going to be actually whenever it falls to the ground. Whenever I'm fishing the spinnerbait, I think one thing to keep in mind is we're basically, the spinnerbait or the underspin, we're still just jigging a bait, essentially. It's just the spinnerbait and the underspin are adding the aspect of the blade. So it just gives us, again, like we talked about earlier, more sensory receptors, or more abilities for the fish's sensory receptors to hone in on this bait. So I'm basically fishing like a jig, just a really slow jig, and feeling that blade spin as I fish it. So a good example of the spinnerbait. Threw over on the flat, threw in the grass in case there was a redfish. Didn't catch redfish. And now we got about a 2.5 pound flounder. Season's closed. Guys, whatever y'all do, I know it's natural. You want to flip it in the boat, let it flop around, get it. That takes all its slime off. Don't do that, man. The slime's what protects the fish. Let's keep the mortality down on these things as much as we can. With that being said, bring it up, keep it over the water. If you lose it, cool, no worries. So, grab him right there, and boom, we got our catch. Beautiful flounder, 2.5, 2 3/4. Good fish on the spinnerbait. There you go. Later, dude, maybe next year. Good to go. So that fish not harmed. Where's his slime at? Still on him. Not on the bottom of the boat. Don't have to clean the boat. Fish is a lot better off. Keep that in mind. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk about underspins. I just started fishing these guys this year, actually. It's very similar to a spinnerbait in regards to covering the 3 aspects of scent, sound, and visual aspect, but it's a little bit different as far as how you fish it. So again, we got a jig head on the front. We got a spinnerbait attached with a piece of wire. This is actually a willow leaf blade. We're going to take this just for presentation purposes. I'm going to use this gulp. I would actually use a smaller gulp, but this is what I have in my hand. So it's got a screw-in head on top of it. We're going to screw that in like so. We're going to come back through with our hook, and boom, we have a completely completely weedless bait presentation. The cool thing about this is you can literally throw it in the grass as far as you want. You can throw it in the rocks, wherever you want to throw it. And then with the forward weight that we have right here, this bait's going to sit like this. So you can roll it back to you and you'll get the sound of the willow leaf blade, or you can actually jig it with that forward facing weight and keep the bait on the bottom. Great for redfish and even better for flounder. All right, guys, we caught one on a bucktail. We caught one on a spinnerbait. The coolest thing about this bait is you can literally, watch this, not even looking. Throw it in the grass, like, I don't know, 10 feet in the grass. If there was a pocket there and I was trying to catch a redfish, that would work. So we're just gonna pull it out of the Spartana, a little bit more, and boom. I'm just gonna let her fall right there. So really good presentation bait. Throw it in the grass, throw it in the rocks, throw it wherever you want to. And then once you get it out in the strike zone, then you can kind of work it however you like. I like to jig it, honestly, just because I like that forward weight, and it gives it this motion right here like this. This bait sinks a lot slower. This is a 1/4 ounce underspin. Sinks slower than that 3/8 spinnerbait I was throwing, or obviously the 5/8 bucktail. So with this one, more delicate presentation. But again, like that kind of equates to being able to throw it into more junk and not have to worry about getting hung up. So we throw it in the grass, kind of pull it out of the grass, and now we're going to let it chill. We're going to let it sink. Hopefully a lot of times we'll get a bite right there. Then we're actually going to work the bait back to us from the grass. This bait's really good from like the, I don't know, like 0 feet to probably 5 or so. Anything deeper than that's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to fish. But flooded grass, high tide, if you got like a 4.5, 5 foot tide variance wherever you're fishing, it's whether it's Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Cape Fear, Moorhead, wherever, really good bait because you're kind of right in there for the grass fishery on that kind of 0 to 5 foot tide swing. All right, going in deep. Look at that. How cool is that? Find another bait you can do that other than like a jerk shad or a weedless rig. There it is. Just like they're supposed to, right off the grass. Again, try not to touch the fish, keep it over the water in case he does come off. Get a good handle on him, and boom, got a fish. Check this out. This is actually old one-eyed Willie here. He's been caught before, poor guy. Evidently he's still doing good enough to eat an underspin. All right, underspin bait. Got one more to go. Live bait it is. All right, guys, we just caught our mullet. Again, end of September, mullet's our primary fishing bait fish. But here's one thing I want y'all to understand. The majority of the flounder that I've cleaned over the past 18 years, out of those, I would say only probably 30% of those actually have a mullet or a pogey in their stomach. The majority of them, 70% or more, whatever the number is, will have a pinfish, a croaker, or a spot. So let's think that through for a minute. When you see mullet, when you see pogies, they're up on top, right? That's how we're able to throw a cast net on them, because they're up on top. We can visually see them. We can throw a cast net on them. Where's the flounder at? The flounder's on the bottom. Two eyes on the same side of his head. He's on the bottom. So the majority of the fish that he's going to eat, as well as other types of crustaceans like shrimp, but the majority of the fish that he's going to eat are going to be bottom-dwelling fin fish, such as pinfish, croaker, and spot. What I'm getting at is mullet are awesome baits. Pogies are awesome baits. All that's cool. We can still go use those to catch flounder, but don't rule out the other three: pinfish, croaker, spots. Me personally, I'll give you 100 mullet for 10 croakers, especially if I'm fishing a tournament. All right, so we wanted to catch 4 fish. We wanted to showcase all 4 different aspects of fishing that we talked about: spinnerbait, underspin, bucktail, and live bait. So far we got 3. We got 1 more to go. We're gonna get a live mullet that we caught with a cast net. A good one. This one's probably a 6-inch bait. 5 or 6. This time of year especially, don't discount a larger bait. I promise a lot of people will be like, man, why would I fish a bait that big for a 16-inch flounder? A 14-inch flounder will eat this bait. So will a 27-inch flounder. So this time of year specifically, August, September, October, fish big baits. We're going to use our 2-aught kill hook that we talked about previously. We're going to go to hook him. We're going to go under in that little V under his mouth. And then we're going to go up through one of his nostrils. Now he's pinned to the hook good. He's not going anywhere. He's ready to fish. All right, when we talk about live bait fishing, again, we went over this one more time, but sinker, a lot of different scenarios. Don't want to go in the weeds too far on that. Today we're using a 3/4 ounce sinker, bead, swivel, 16, 18 inches, 25-pound fluoroliter, and about a 5 or 6 inch mullet. Again, like a bait caster, just enables me to cast more accurately, to stop my bait its forward progress whenever I'm casting. When we talk about a bite, let me just go ahead and cast out here. So when we talk about a bite, again, right now North Carolina has no open season. So in theory, I would say if you're somewhere other than North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, wherever you may be, if you get a bite on a live bait, you get a thump, you're reeling down, you feel some weight, whatever it is, don't do anything. Don't jerk. Don't sit and smoke a cigarette, count to 10, none of that stuff. Just give it a second, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Reel down with your rod, get to it. And now what I've got is, if it is a fish and I do want to set the hook, I've got from basically 9 to 3 to set my hook. So that really gives me the ability to drive the hook into his mouth. So again, reel down, pull tight. If you get resistance, if he pulls back, snug him on up. Don't jerk, don't build dance. Start down here at 9, reel, feel weight, and just snug. And I promise you'll catch him like that. North Carolina, however, again, we can't keep him. We want to protect the resource, so I'm not going to let him eat it at all. So we're going to cast it out in the grass a little bit, bring it out right on the edge, let it hit. And now, so like if I got a bite right now, I'm immediately going to reel down. I'm going to pull, I'm going to drag him. If I feel his weight, then I'll set the hook. I'm not going to wait. Again, a lot of the old timers will say smoke a cigarette, whatever. Don't do any of that crap. Wait, feel his weight, drag him a little bit. If you drag him, you feel his weight. If he pulls back, snug it on up. All right, let's try to catch one. When a flounder bites a live bait, it's going to feel like one of two things. When he hits it, it's going to be like that. You're literally going to feel it in the butt of your rod. If you're fishing braid, have a sensitive rod, that's cool. That's when, and whenever that happens, what's going on is he's actually hit it so hard, he's actually sucked it down into his throat. Because the thump you feel is that mullet or that bait going dunk, and that hit is the vibration you feel in your rod. Either going to be that or the wet sock, like I've talked about before. You're going to be working your bait back, and something's just not going to feel right. You're going to drag it a little bit, doesn't really feel right. Reel down. If you feel weight, set it. The cool thing about mullet is they're very hardy, so you can actually fish the same mullet for a long time. as opposed to a pogie, especially this time of year. The water temp's 79, so basically 80. You're going to get like 7 or 8 casts out of a pogie. Just they're not hardy like a mullet is. The bigger the mullet, the more hardy he is, the more cast you're going to get. All right, guys, so I think I've got a fish on. Still, I've been doing this 18 years. I'm pretty good at it. I still get confused. Sometimes it's a piece of grass. Sometimes it's a piece of fishing line, whatever it may be. Or it could be a flounder. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to reel down to it, get the rod tip low, 9 o'clock, however you want to look at it. We're going to start pulling back. If we have weight, we're going to set him. If we don't have weight, we're going to try to figure out how to get rid of that hang that we have on right there. Got weight. And we got a flounder. All right, cool. Little guy, but still, it's all good. Finally caught one on live bait. Again, sorry to keep on preaching about this. We'll keep him over the boat. Try not to handle him as little as possible. Come here, buddy. Touch you. Buddy. All right, pinch him right there. In his jaws or cheeks, whatever you want to call it. That hook out, he's good to go. All right, mission accomplished. Caught one on a live bait, caught one on a spinnerbait, caught one on a underspin, and caught one on a bucktail. Good times. Aaron, thanks for filming. Hope you all got something out of this. Stick around. We'll be back with something else cool. I don't know. Trout, redfish, deer, maybe another dove hunt. I don't know. We'll see. See y'all later. We'll snug him and get him. Good fish. Time. Don't get bit. All right, look at this, guys. Now that is a flounder. As much smack as I talk about live bait, it does produce good quality fish.